Though I wasn't born on these islands, I feel that way. I grew up here right from my earliest memories as a child. My father often visited the islands with my mother and had various schemes like a fishing boat and the usual stuff that one did in the 50s and 60s. And so I got to see some of the early history of this place for, I guess, as I have lived. Before that, the history was even grander in many ways in the sense of what was here. And I have also got to see what has been taken away. I remember these islands and the waters, especially the waters that were so rich that I would be woken up at night by the sounds of salmon fishing, salmon finning in the bays. I swam with the killer whales. I actually accidentally hooked one while fishing off the shoreline. Just came up under my line. It was such an amazing place for a little child to grow up in and to see the various aspects of the islands. So they're deep in my heart, and that's why I wanted to come back here to live 25 years ago. I also accepted that the islands have this wonderful culture. It's a shifting culture, it's a changing culture, but it really is a magnificent one. Every community has its own kinds of cultures, but Salt Spring has a fairly spectacular one. We have an incredible arts culture, for instance. I believe that according to one study that there was more artists per capita on Salt Spring Island than any other community in Canada except Cape Dorset, where everybody's a sculptor, of course. But here we have musicians, writers, and so on, all kinds of different cultural expressions, painters, and it's hard to even name them because of the richness that we have. And they came here because of the beauty of these islands and because of its also way of life. And the way of life is as important as the way of the arts and as important as the economy. And what happens is that we've got these islands which are paradise, basically. It's a really spectacular World Heritage Site, and that always means that the land is paved with gold for some people. It is so rich and beautiful that people just are always looking for ways to make money out of it. And one of the best ways of making money out of a landscape is through development. And I fear that what this whole debate that we're having about incorporation is mostly about development, right? I've lived with the Islands Trust. We have to remember that the Islands Trust was created to fight development. That was the purpose. The Magic Lakes estate with the biggest subdivision in Canada at the time. It's so horrified, even the Socred government was terrified of it. And then there was, of course, the Gabriola events going on where they were massively selling off properties with no water and no chance of having water on them. And so there was a moratorium declared and the trust was created. We have to fit into the islands, not make the islands to the individual mold or fantasy of every citizen. And we constantly have that friction happening. And it's probably a good friction because it makes us think about what we're doing, just as this debate makes us think once again about our governance and how we are going to live on this island. I actually was an alderman. I have been a politician. I was an alderman in White Rock in 1981 to 1985, 5 years I served, and was on all the committees and boards. These were all good-hearted people. They just had a different vision, and they couldn't see anything except through the glasses of development, of progress, right? And of growth. One of the things that has happened, and which is what happens in municipalities, is that they are based on growth. They are land tax based because the provincial government gradually withdrew all of our money. And by doing that, they created the only system for a community to survive was through development. And this is what we have seen happen consistently throughout all of our municipalities and incorporated communities. So we have a really unique thing here. I mean, I think they screwed up when they created the Islands Trust, because it actually works, and it actually did slow down the development, and it did protect and preserve these islands. Even then, when we talk about, you know, how the trust is always interfering with the developers and all this kind of stuff, we have to remember that, say from I think it's 1976 to 2006, for 30 years, our population increased by 61%. Vancouver only increased by 29%. You know, we've been growing. I mean, despite our trying to do it in a rational way. And I've always followed Edward Abbey, who said that the vision of unending growth is the creed of the cancer cell. And that's what we have to fight. And that's what this debate is all about. There's all these other things that we can discuss, and I'll mention a few of them later. But the real issue is the emerald, the crown jewel in the Islands Trust, which is zoning bylaws, zoning permissions. And that's what's wanted, right? And that's what we have to defend, because if there is an unlimited opening of this, or if we remove that mandate to preserve and protect, then we only have the mandate of raising our taxes and keeping this community going through development and through the land taxes and rezonings and so on. And these would be truly crippling to the islands. And I think this culture, this way of life, these arts, this landscape would all be very damaged eventually down the road by incorporation. It wouldn't necessarily be a gold rush, but it would happen. It would happen inevitably.